Hello and welcome to Smash Writing. We're back. Another entry to Phantasm, Phantasm 2. You know the drill. Let's dive in. Let's not waste any time. This movie kicks off. We meet a woman named Liz. She's waking up. She's started having psychic visions 8 years prior. And she had seen everything happening with Reggie and Mike and his brother. And we pick up where we left off from Phantasm 1, with Mike getting snatched, and we see Reggie making the save, fighting off little creatures, and he eventually makes the save by pretty much blowing up his own house. Something that does not seem to faze the tall man whatsoever. But we go back to Liz, who tells her that her grandfather's passing is another event, and the tall man has grown near, and she needs Mike to come and help her now. And Mike hears this, now an adult, in his psychiatric care unit, and he tells the doctor everything the doctor needs to hear from him about he was mistaken, he didn't see any of the craziness, he's healed. The doctor goes, "You're healed," and free he goes. And he goes back to the cemetery, and he digs it up, and he's caught by Reggie digging up a grave that has no body in it. And Mike is like, "This is the third one. There is just no bodies in this cemetery whatsoever." Because that's what, another thing from Liz. The tall man, he brings back the dad. He steals their dad, he buries the towns, and then he moves on. And the tall man in this movie, has done what he did in this town, and he's moved on. And Mike wants to go chase after him. Reggie's not too sure. And he talks Mike into leaving, going back home with him, and they'll talk about it there. But Mike gets a vision from the tall man, a message. And he warns him about what's about to happen, but it's too late in the house with Reggie's family, and it blows up. And this is enough to get Reggie to swear vengeance, and off they go. And the first stop is a hardware store. And they start loading up. Mike makes a flamethrower, but who cares about that? Reggie has made a quadruple-barreled shotgun. And off they go. Reggie, to be fair to him, nice guy. He drops a bunch of cash into the cash register, and then they show themselves out. And the hunt is on. And they keep chasing on. We hear a lot about narration from Reggie, who's writing a journal. And they keep finding these dead towns, but it's already too late. He's already gone. So they come up to another very similar scene, dead town, and the morgue appears to be cleared out. That Mike, for a moment, sees a woman on a morgue table kind of deal. But she disappears. And before he can investigate that, Reggie's calling. There's a woman, a survivor, who looks very similar to Liz. She's not Liz, though. As it turns out, it's an apparition, and a monster comes out of her spine with a head, and the tall man talks through the face. And he goes, "You play a good game, boy. Keep going east if you dare." So, eastward ho! But, meanwhile, Liz is at the funeral for her grandfather. And you could tell, tall man's here. The pallbearer's very suspicious. The priest, very nervous. So, Liz's sister tells her, like, "I gotta go. I can't stay in town. I'm due back wherever." And she bails, and Liz goes to chase after her. And the grandmother leaves the room. But, the grandmother leaves the room, and the pastor goes up to the corpse, and he stabs the corpse, trying to stop whatever sacrilege is occurring here. And the grandmother sees this because she didn't actually leave. She just stepped out for a moment and passes out. Back with Liz, she had psychically called Mike for help one more time, and she sees this smoking casket that she goes up to, but is stopped by the tall man who does grave services about to begin, and scares her off, but she stabs him with a pin needle, and he's like bleeding yellow, and he drinks it. Like, yay, that's delicious. Later on that night, the pastor is once again drinking, and he keeps getting bothered by something at his door, and when he finally opens the spy hole, the grandfather's there, who is then back at the grandmother's house, kidnapping the grandmother. Back with Reggie and Mike. They're still driving. Mike is asleep, and he has a dream of a brunette hitchhiker, the same brunette he saw on the coroner's table way back when. And when he wakes up, that hitchhiker he saw in his dream is in the backseat of his car. Reggie is horny and picks her up and is going to take her to her hometown, which seems to be about the same place they need to go. Mike tries to warn him, like, it could be really dangerous for her. She's appearing in my dreams as a dead woman. Reggie's like, oh, we'll keep her safe, we'll keep her safe. Think of me here. It's been too long. So Mike agrees, and off they go. Meanwhile, Liz finds her grandmother is gone, and the pin she stabbed him with is on the nightstand. And she hears the words, if you want her, come get her tonight. So she goes to the funeral home to try to save her grandmother. Mike and Reggie and the hitchhiker, whose name is Alchemy, but call her Kemi, arrive to town. This is where her uncle, it's boarded up, run down, deserted, much like everything else. And they go to a B&B her uncle owns, and after breaking in and getting everything set up, they go to the funeral home too. While they're doing that, also, for some reason, Reggie tells her all about the mission they're on. Which I wouldn't do. I'd keep that a secret. You're hunting a tall man who may be an alien. Yeah, don't spread that around. Meanwhile, Liz sees a bit of the operation going on in the what they're doing to the dead bodies. While the priest is there as well, he makes a play for the baby coffin, but there's like a bed of nails in there that spike his hand a little bit when he tries to touch it. So he tries to backtrack, and he's re-christening, I guess you want to call it, the church when the tall man comes in and kind of laughs at him kind of deal. And we have he's actually starts choking him with his own rosary beads with telekinesis. And he has a great line of, when you die, do you think you go to heaven? No, you come to us. And then it looks like he's letting him just run off when the side of the baby coffin opens up, and out comes 3 spheres that rocket after him. But the priest immediately loses an ear to a saw blade one that converts back into the sphere we all know and love, sticking into his head, spewing blood everywhere, taking out the father. And Liz is grabbed up by the tall man, and he chucks her off a wall and walks away, leaving her dazed. And one of the little creatures show up, and it's a shortened down version of her grandmother, who starts to pull her away somewhere, but Liz manages to break free and runs away. She manages to make it all the way outside, and she actually falls into what I think is her grandfather's plot, where Mike just happens to be at. Reggie joins them, and they duck away and hide from the hearses that are driving around, and they make it off the property. And Reggie has a smart idea of, let's just bail town now. We're not ready for this fight at the moment. But Mike convinces them, like, we're a few hours till dawn. We can leave then. Let's just get some sleep. Which him and Liz go up to the room, and Kemi and Reggie go up to their room. Mike and Liz share a nice psychic conversation where they profess their love for each other. And Kemi and Reggie are having the most, I guess you can call it intimate scene. It's a weird scene going on there, but they're interrupted by the sound of the grenade going off, which turns out to be a pet animal of some kind. And that kind of shocks Mike a little bit. It's like, what are we actually doing here? We just killed this cat. We are so over our heads right now. And Reggie talks, trying to get him back on that ledge. When upstairs, Liz is grabbed by the tall man, who gets her into the back of the hearse and is bailing out while they're chasing behind him. And Reggie grabs the gear, and he promises to come look for Kemi when this is all over, and she needs to run now. And they get behind the Hemikuda and chase after him. And they do manage to run him down, but he makes them wreck on a rock, and they flip. And he makes it back to the funeral home, while those two just barely escape the explosion. Liz is being taken into the crematorium room by one of the pallbearers, when she just barely manages to escape that situation. Meanwhile, Reggie and Mike are geared up, and they've arrived at the funeral home. They find a door with 2 slits in a circle kind of deal, and they come up with the idea that they need to get their hands on one of the spheres, stick it into that hole to get it to open the door. And Reggie's kind of like, yeah, good luck with that, my buddy. But they split up to go their separate ways. Mike finds Liz, and one of the remaining pallbearers grabs him. But he ends up getting his hand stuck to a door by one of the spheres. And he manages to hack it off while another sphere is coming after them. And pallbearer guy goes one way, Liz and Mike go another way, and the sphere is going after Mike and Liz, obviously. And it is barreling through doors. Bang, 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 till it hits a metal door. And while they feel it's safe behind this metal door, they're attacked by the pallbearer with one hand. But while they're doing that, the sphere is cutting through the door and collides with his back. It saw blades its way into his body and all the way up and gets stuck in his mouth, trying to escape his mouth. Meanwhile, Reggie's having a fight with a giant dude. He has a bigger chainsaw. That's the joke there. But Reggie does win by whacking him between the legs with his little baby chainsaw, and manages to escape. But before he does, a bunch more creatures show up, and that's important because it lets him finally shoot the quadruple-barreled shotgun. We waited way too long for that gun to go off. Regardless, he meets up with Mike and Liz as they're removing the spike ball that's drilling into the hand. And they use that ball to open the doors, and once again we see the two metal pillars from the beginning of the movie. But before they can torch the room, the tall man arrives. He knocks Mike nearly through the door, but Mike does end up falling in. Reggie just manages to grab him and loops his feet around the poles so he can't go all the way in himself. And he drags Liz into the room and is going to shoot her up with the embalming fluid he's been using to take over everybody. Reggie and Mike manage to make it out, and they fight him off, and he gets stabbed with the needle. And Reggie turns on the embalming fluid because, unbeknownst to the tall man, Reggie dumped a bunch of hydrochloric acid in there, and he just melts away in a graphic, gory blur. They make it out, and as they're making it, Reggie's catching everything on fire. And when they make it to the exit, the hearse pulls up, and it's Kemi. She had stolen the hearse after her car had broken down. And everyone looks like it's being a happy days as they're driving off until Kemi, who's playing with her hair, and a good chunk of it falls out. She's one of them. And she beats the hell out of Reggie, kicks him out of the car. They're trapped in the back of the hearse. And the door, the front little eye hole slides open, and it's the tall man back again. And the little creatures grab them and pull them out of the back, and we cut to black. And that is Phantasm 2. Oh. A lot of shit happens in that movie in an hour and a half. It is well paced, though. I'll give them that. A well paced movie. For a sequel, they did everything right. The stakes have been raised. There's more horror, there's more gore, there's more action. It feels the stakes are much higher. His power and the vastness of his reach is greater and greatly improved. More spheres. I was not going to make that obvious joke. But what they're doing is they've improved a lot of all this shit. They added some things. They showed off his strength. They showed off this weird bug hand out of his bug antenna from his forehead. They still haven't answered anything. They gave us a bunch of other questions. Like, what is really going on? What is his end goals? What is the tall man? No answers. No answers at all. Acting-wise, I thought that James LaGrosse did a really good job as Michael here. He was really entertaining. He really played a kid who felt like he was a messed up kid still. Despite being older, he still felt like he was a messed up kid. He was out to try to avenge everything that has happened to him. I'm still not much of a fan of Reggie. His humor just really is not doing it for me. God, I love that shotgun though. Love the shotgun. The Hemikuda too is really nice. Paula Irving she did a fine job as Liz, but this is very much Angus Scrimm's movie series here. He is owning this role. He's owning these movies. His presence of just and when he walks into a scene, he carries it. He's the center of attention. The way is the line delivery throughout this movie is great. It's only improved since the first one, and they've given him more things to say, and he's knocking it out of the park. We had another gotcha ending here, much like we did in the first one. It really didn't hit as well as the first one. It at least assured us, for the most part, that we would be getting a sequel, which we need, because you haven't answered any questions. Questions must be answered. And that is my review of Phantasm 2. I'm going to give this a B. I do think it's a step down from part 1. More Reggie was not a good thing, but everything else was really great. More Angus was definitely welcome. So my final grade for this movie is going to be a B. I hope you enjoyed. As always, have a good one. Bye-bye.